Yes, hello. Thank you for joining me today with Don Pfaff, Derek Taylor, and Ori from Titl. Derek, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us a little more.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Derek Taylor. I work for a company called T360. We're a consultancy firm in the residential real estate space at all levels. Prior to that, I was CTO for a company called JPAR Real Estate, which had an exit. And then prior to that, I worked for Nextdoor, helping them launch their real estate vertical.
Hi, I'm Dawn Pfaff. I'm the owner and founder of My State MLS. We're a nationwide multiple listing service. We also own and operate our own software. And I am kind of an evangelist for getting properties on chain and having brokers own their data and keep ownership of their data.
Hi guys, my name is Ohayon. I'm co-founder and president of Titl. We are the completely digital land registry solution. Basically put, we use AI and blockchain to generate titles and store them on chain securely. Prior to that, I was in banking. So I was at Goldman Sachs and TD Securities, and then tried to focus on fintech and digitization of assets, basically.
Thank you for introducing all of yourselves. So I just wanted to kind of pass the mic back off to Derek really quick. I know that you and I were having an interesting conversation earlier about addressing the elephant in the room, NAR. So I wanted you to kind of share your interesting perspective on that really quick.
Oh, thank you. So I think the frame of reference I'm trying to create here is not necessarily about the organization NAR, but about the lawsuits and the settlements that have happened. And kind of go back a little bit in time, even back to say 1904, St. Louis World's Fair. It was an amazing time at the St. Louis World's Fair. They had introduced the ice cream cone. They introduced the tea bag and what eventually became the fax machine and also the airplane. And then at the same time in California, the first MLS was formed. So the MLS is as old as the ice cream cone, which is also interesting. It's also as old as the fax machine. And MLS has kind of built the industry around it. Brokers, agents, all of that kind of been on the backbone of MLS and the data that's there. We've had some challenges pre 1990. We were a very broker centric industry. Post 1990, we were a very agent centric with the new business models that came out. So we were focusing on what the agent needed to make sure that that was met. And now with the lawsuits post NAR settlement, we're going to be driven one way or the other into a consumer centric model, which is going to change a lot of things about how we do things as practitioners, as agents, and how the technology that's being built, exactly how that is going to be built around the consumer and helping the consumer.
So you could say it's more so like about data ownership now that it's more consumer centric.
Data ownership's always been, it started off where the broker owned all the data, right? Then the agents were given the assumption of you're listing your lead and you kind of control that piece of the data and the broker's just there to help. And I think the MLS at the same time owns the aggregation of the data and the distribution of the data and copyright. This is just generally speaking. But I think when we're looking forward now, AI is something we really need to be focusing on. And AI works with massive amounts of data. And the rights to use that data will change the way we do real estate. So if the individual broker owns the individual listing, then if an MLS were to put artificial intelligence in front of their data, they would be creating, I believe, and not an attorney, but they would be creating a derivative product of which they don't have the rights to use that data for. So the MLS, the same way, the MLS will need to go to the brokers to get more permission data to be able to use this. The brokers will need to go to their agents to get more information from them about their data and their data set to have a competitive advantage against other brokerages. So we see this consolidation of data as very necessary to continue leveraging the benefits of artificial intelligence, and the ability to do that will depend upon the data.
Thank you. So I'd really like to hear Don's take on that, kind of in regards from a perspective of MLS and kind of the data aggregated from there.
Okay, well, first, a little background. My state MLS, the MLS that I founded, is not a member of the NAR family of MLSs. And we did not and are not affected by the settlement because we didn't have the same rule set that they had. And that rule set, what Derek was talking about, the rule set kind of creates the question of who owns the data and who can do what with the data. Now, specifically for my state MLS, we never take ownership of that data. We always allow the broker to keep the ownership of the data because we feel like the person it originated from is the person who should have all the say over it. But when it comes to getting rights to being able to utilize it in a derivative data set or putting it on chain, I think it's in our MLS, because we own our own software, we can just add permissions and then allow each broker to either opt in or not opt in on what they want to do with their own data. But I don't really think that the MLS should be telling the broker, the licensee, how to do business, because that's how they got in trouble in the first place, by making rules that made everybody operate the exact same way. And so I always try to stay away from that. What we don't want to do is take away anybody's rights to their property, their intellectual property, and we also don't want to dictate how they should or shouldn't do business, because then that stifles competition.
So Don, real quick, if they opt out of allowing you to leverage that data with artificial intelligence, are you still going to allow them to have the benefits of the use of that artificial intelligence without the opt-in? So if they're not participating, do they get to participate in the results?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you for your take on that, Don. So I'd also like to kind of get to see how you think that, we're going to be adopting to these new regulations kind of moving forward from the perspective of MLS and kind of with what we're talking about in mind with data ownership.
Okay, so with data ownership in certain MLSs, that even in here in the state of Florida, some MLSs, they take the copyright of the data from the broker, and they have a little checkbox when you join, and it says, do you give the copyright away to the MLS? And they check that little box off, and they've given away their rights to the data. Well, now everyone comes to the MLS to try to buy that data from the MLS or exploit that data, and the members get mad. So that's kind of why I always say each broker should make the own decision for what happens to their data. And no matter how much anybody wants to accumulate all that data in one place, I still believe in the ownership of the intellectual property.
Awesome. Thank you. So, Ori, I wanted to kind of get your feedback and kind of from the perspective of what you're doing at Titl, kind of where you see these new regulations adapting more so moving towards the future.
Yeah, so it's interesting with MLS and different brokerage websites. The way we approached it is we wanted to try to create a much more raw land registry where I was able to collect the official data, which came from government repositories across the US, and amalgamate it and take it out of basically the title agency's hands and so on, and put it back in the owner's hands. So the way we're doing it is we're using AI to scrape massive amounts of public information from government sources, read it, and summarize it in the form of a title report. By doing so, we're generating title reports in literally less than a minute and giving them directly to the homeowners. And by default, I'm storing that on chain and giving that wallet to the owner of the property. They don't necessarily know they have a blockchain wallet, but it's part of their account. By doing so, all the information associated with your house now it belongs to the government, but also belongs to you now, and you have that official report under your name, timestamped. Our goal with that is to be able to transfer houses faster. We're not focused so much on the marketing and the sale of that house, but the actual processing of that of that transaction is our primary emphasis.
Derek, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, what I love about that is you see with real estate, we have so many different data sets and they're very disparate. They're in different silos everywhere. And I think one of the most valuable ones that we can use to benefit the consumer is the data about the consumer specifically. And some of that data is stored with the government data. Some of that data is stored with the agent who helped them and the broker who helped them. Some of that data is stored inside of the MLS that helped them get the property sold. So I think we're going to see in the future a fusion of those data sets into something that I would love to see the consumer have more control over, where they, I want to sell my house now, so I'm going to give you access to the data that I have that's on chain at the time I want you to have them in the way I want you to have it to be used in the however I want you to have it, however the smart contract allows, or however this is built, right? So kind of the future of consumer protection, but also allowing for more data about the consumer to be flowing and the consumer's properties into the people who are helping them and the systems that are helping them purchase and sell their property going forward. And that's going to be a much more valuable consumer experience. The consumer will have more control over the entire process, who helps them, what those people know, and I think it'll give them much better results and have a much faster transaction.
So I think the big problem, though, is the public record data is a mess. I was a real estate appraiser before I started the MLS, and in a rural upstate area north of New York City, and you'd go town to town, and the cards would be empty. And a lot of people would hide information because they were afraid that if they gave accurate information about their house, that they would be taxed at a higher rate. So I think maybe that data has to get cleaned up a little bit. And I'm not sure quite how that happens, but the real estate agents who go into that house and report, and the appraisers who go into that house and report on what's in there, I think is a more accurate measure, depending on where you are and how old the property is. Like newer properties, you have to have a CO for everything, so it's more accurate. But if you get a property that predates zoning, like in New York, anything built before 1973 in some of the upstate areas of New York have absolutely no accuracy whatsoever because they didn't need a CO. So there was no building department to verify any of the facts.
So yeah, this is something we're trying to do. Thanks to AI's ability to scrape this data so fast, you're talking about stagnant information. With AI, we're actually able to update this live every day. So essentially, we've created a product that reruns your title search every day, notifying you of any changes to your deeds, to your code violations, permits, liens, mortgages, all that stuff. And we're actually adding appraisals too. So now anytime you're getting an appraisal on the house, that's also getting added to your block of data. That's helping us. It's kind of acting as a credit checker on your house, but now you're able to get kind of a mark to market on your property in a data set that typically would never get updated. It would get updated when you're looking to sell the house. So I think tech and blockchain in particular is actually able to keep those data sources live versus stagnant, which is a massive player in this. Making our goal is like making the ability to transfer your house. It shouldn't take more than 30 minutes. Like when we live in a world where data is literally flowing through literally every device on our table, why is the house taking 4 or 5 months to settle? Because of some weird code violation and papers need to get pushed somewhere. So the more live we can make it, the more actively we can monitor it, the better off we are. And there's no reason that real estate should be any different to any other asset class.
The thing that makes it a little bit different, and the thing that we're all trying to solve here, is that there is way more data involved in the transfer of a property than there is in the transfer of a stock, right? And I think it's a more complex process. And one of the things about these new regulations that are hitting us, like for example, the new FCC regulations and the limitation of third-party data and the deprecation of cookies and all the things that we have been using to gather data, we're going to be leveraging more first-party data and that first party data, it will come to us either direct from the consumer or from the consumer through the representative agent or their loan officer or their title company, right? And that all has to get put somewhere, and they need to have control over it. But once we figure all this out, we've been working on this kind of Carfax for homes for years now, and no one's ever figured it out. I think with everything that's happening now, this is the time to make it happen, right? This is the time for us to actually figure out how do we find a central repository of all of the data about home ownership and property ownership in general that the consumer controls access to. And that's what I'd like to see. And I'd love to see what Elias, or sorry, what Ori's doing. What Don's doing is revolutionary when it comes to MLS. Just completely not associated with the association. More about what's right for the consumer. Just amazing things that you guys are doing.
Thank you. Yeah, these are all interrupting. We're interrupting an industry here. I mean, that's what Web3 is, right? We're rebuilding a paradigm, and that's why we're all here, to find out what's next and how things are going to move forward. So I have been a computer geek. Sorry for you computer geeks out there, but I'm one. So, hey,
Own
nice
it.
to meet you guys.
That's right.
I'm owning. I've been a computer geek for a long time, and I want to see the next steps, but I don't think the next steps can happen without ownership, and that's why we're all here. That's what being on the chain is about, is owning your little piece of it and making sure that everyone has a copy so that nobody can hack it, and so that it's secure. And that's what we all want to see. But I still think that I think there's room for the professional. I think the professional is necessary, the broker and the appraiser, because the consumer doesn't know. They literally they don't know how things work. They think that if their basement is finished, that's part of their gross living area, and it is not, in places where they have basements. So there's literally things that the consumer might know that they have 3 bedrooms, but they might have turned a den into a bedroom and not realize it's not a bedroom without a closet. So I still think that there is room for the professional in this process, and I don't think the professional should be disregarded so fast either. I think we need to include everybody in it in order to get the most accurate data.
Totally, I agree with you entirely. I think something we've already designed, we're working on, is creating authenticated nodes that can log in and update these title contracts that we've created. So giving the ability to an agent to log in and update your deed and show what the changes are to the title, or having your title agent being able to log in and update your whatever permits, codes, whatever they're working on for you. Again, like I'm going to reiterate, but it's turning stagnant data into live data, so the asset class of real estate can become more liquid long term, right? So just like equities, there's a massive amount of information behind equities, but it's updated live. We view it on a terminal and we see everything. Why is real estate any different? It really shouldn't be.
It almost, if you could do something about ad valorem taxation, which is taxation based on the value of your home, it would be great if we could find another way to assess property taxes. This way, the consumer could be more honest about what's actually in their home.
Yeah, it's hard. These are all hard problems to solve, and I think the biggest takeaway that I see from most of this is, if you're going to work together as an industry to solve these problems, then you need to find the partners that you feel are going the direction that you're going, and then do everything you can to back them. Find an advocate that's working in the same direction that you're headed, and leverage them moving forward. It's going to be an effort that we all put together, but it's going to be a financial effort. So we're going to have to put our money and our trust into the companies that we feel are moving in the right direction and solving this problem the correct way. And I think both of these companies here, or 2 of them, are doing a great job at that.
Well, I really appreciate all of your feedback, and it kind of seems to me the way to adapt and move forward is on chain, and bringing the property rights on chain and doing it in a very transparent, immutable way. So thank you, all of you, for being on the stage today with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.